Just let me just say that this Finance Committee meeting, whatever today's date is.
October 9th.
Yeah, there you go, October 9th, and we're running late. Sorry we're running late. We just got a quorum. And we're in the middle of a discussion.
Okay. Dawn, thanks for coming in.
Pleasure.
You mentioned operational,
Criteria?
yeah, and demographic differences. And my sense is the first thing you would do is get a job description, because you got to determine what the responsibilities.
That's right.
For the position, what they are.
Right.
In your experience, do you have difficulty matching up? Because, I mean, these jobs can, vary because of health benefits, number of meetings, town size, which I guess you addressed in demographics. But,
Right.
I mean, do you always find some comparable data? I mean, because that's kind of the wish of the...
That's a great question.
That's what the
Yeah.
wish of the committee is to say, okay,
Right,
we don't
right.
really know. We go to the
Sure.
expert, and we want to get some data that we can rely on.
Yeah, so the answer to your question is no.
Yeah, I was
You don't
going
always get that.
I was going to give
In
the
other words,
answer.
and what I
actually.
mean by that, let me
Yeah.
just explain a little bit more what I mean by that, or the reasons, is that it's not unusual to find a municipality, whether it's Milford or anywhere else, that has a position, or maybe more than one, that truly is unique to this town.
Yeah.
When you look at, and I can give you, I'm sure you can think of thousands of examples, but when you look at what you're requiring a particular position to do here in Milford, well, that may be so unique to Milford that frankly in the marketplace it just doesn't exist. Literally, I mean, that does happen, and I can give you examples of what I mean by that. The good news is that even if you're not able to find good comparable comparisons in the marketplace, you don't necessarily have to have it, because you know and I know, ultimately, the decision with respect to what the town of Milford wants to pay a position is really based on what you think is right for the town of Milford, not necessarily what's best for another municipality. So you're looking at the municipality, another municipality, just as a guide, frankly, to help you make that decision in terms of what's best for you. Having said that, that's why internal equity becomes so important, because you know what you require a position to do here in Milford, and therefore I would submit to you, you're able to compare what you're requiring position A to do here in Milford to any other position in Milford because you know what you're requiring them to do. Whereas when you start looking at the marketplace, that's where you begin running into all these variations and different themes and different characteristics. Bottom line is that it really brings into question the credibility, or I should say the reliability, of looking at certain communities. I'm only suggesting to you that by at least including operational criteria in addition to demographics, it helps to minimize, that kind of credibility issue, so that particularly both from an employee standpoint as well as yours from an employer's point of view, you know how you've done it, and ultimately you can put it in writing. But no question, there are uniquenesses in the marketplace. Most of your elected positions, are typical, in terms of the ones that are well understood and recognized. You are going to find other comparable, similar positions. They don't have to be exact, but close enough. Now, the other thing I just want to mention in that regard, too, is that once we collect the data, it doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to use it. So I always encourage the cities and towns I work with is that, let's collect as much data as you want. No matter who you want to survey, really doesn't make that much difference. The point is, once we collect it, then we're going to look at it, and you're going to decide, well, is this data creditable or not? Whether it's from this municipality or that. So just keep that in mind, that using the data is ultimately a decision you make so that you're comfortable making that decision again.
Yeah, I don't think the internal equity issue is going to be much of a question. I mean, we have elected town boards, and I think the distinction is, you're a chairman or you're just a board member.
Right.
And so I don't think there's really, and they're all stipend kind of positions, as you know. So it's
Well, I
really
know,
not the
and
internal
you know
equity
the
issue.
people,
Huh?
and you know the people, but I can assure, it's only human nature, frankly.
Yeah.
If I'm a board chairman and you're a board chairman and you're paid more than I am kind of thing, and I think my board's more difficult than
Yeah,
your
okay.
board,
No, that's valid.
that's the kind of issue that,
Yeah, that's
whether
valid.
you're aware of it or not,
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know,
valid.
but I can assure you that when you talk to the employees, that's typically what you hear.
Okay.
And so we want to be at least sensitive to that issue, whether it's real or not, remains to be seen.
Okay, good, thank you, good.
Quick question, Don, thank you.
Yes.
In your second bullet on this page, it indicates that you're going to do a study with respect to comparison to comparable communities.
Correct.
Do you have a feel for how many towns that might be at this point, or is it,
Well,
or
again,
what is the
that-
typical study?
Yeah, and again, that's a
involve?
great comment. Well, again, there is no rule of thumb in that regard. In
Understood,
other words,
yeah.
I would submit to you that if you look at it strictly, as I'm sure you probably do, as a finance committee, in other words, you represent the town of Milford, which is the employer. How many you require as an employer, meaning how many other comparables, again, on a position-by-position basis, is a decision that you make. In other words, what your comfort level is with respect to how many other comparables you need so that you're comfortable knowing what the marketplace is doing on a position-by-position basis is a decision you'll make. And so there is no rule of thumb in terms of how many.
So this is a number that we present to you?
Well, no, that's the number ultimately you decide. In other words, the first step in this process would be to, for either you to submit to me and I submit to you. The point is, we both get together and we both agree, and you tell me, here's how we want you to survey the marketplace. So that you know, before we survey the marketplace, how we're gonna survey the marketplace for each and every single position.
How does one develop a cost to a town if they, I mean, certainly the more towns and the more data that you gather.
Potentially the more unreliable.
Well, I'm not
Quantity isn't necessarily the best way to look at it. In other words, you really want to put a lot of emphasis right up front in establishing those criteria to use to select comparable municipalities, so that, again, you can address that equity issue or credibility issue right up front.
Understood. But again, going back to my question, when you develop a cost for your services, I'm certainly, I'm sure part of it is hours that you're gonna spend. And if you're going to do a survey of 8 towns versus 80, I mean, that's a lot more work involved. So,
Not really.
no.
No, maybe that's a misconception. In other
It's
words,
a
when we write a
misconception on
survey
my
instrument.
part, I'll tell you yes, yeah.
Well, yeah, to some extent, you're absolutely right. I mean, within reason, quote unquote, I'm not sure what that means. But when you survey, whether you survey 8 communities or 10 communities, buying in itself, I mean, it's pretty much the same amount of time in terms of sending those survey instruments out. Collecting the data may take you a little bit more time because you've got more pieces of data than you would have otherwise, perhaps.
So the short answer is, we don't know at this point how many towns are gonna be involved.
No, and I don't think we should. I mean, I think that would be
And that's something they're gonna work with us on?
we would work with you on and then make that determination. So there's no preconceived notion as to how many is right or wrong or what's good or
Is there an
bad.
ability to go back after the fact, if we look at a particular 3 or 4 towns and say, did you look at this segment of that job description in those towns? Is that an option that we have for you to go back?
Absolutely, and that's what I'm alluding to as criteria. So if you look at a job description and you pick out certain aspects of a job description that you think are important,
And we might miss one?
well, but again, whatever you select, you select. The point is that helps me, when I put that instrument together, which I haven't shown you, I didn't actually think to give you a sample. For every position, we'll put a box in that, not just the position title, in other words, we'll include a brief description that highlights what are the important characteristics of XYZ position here in Milford. So that when the other municipality receives that form, they'll read what I call a statement of duties. It'll tell them enough to know what the position characteristics are here in Milford, so that we can try to match, again, comparable positions.
One last question. So the response to your data collection is voluntary by these other towns and cities?
Yeah, it's public information. You'd like to think that it's sort of,
Okay,
you
but
know,
it isn't
automatic.
something you go out and gather. You send something out to them and you rely on them to send it back to you.
Right, and one of the things, given the fact I do so many of these surveys, I have a certain database built up and, contacts with most of the communities, certainly in Central Mass, which is where I've been spending a lot of my time. But yeah, you ultimately rely on, the individual municipalities, and of course, we offer to share the results with them and everything to try to encourage them to participate. But sometimes it takes a little push and pull, but we always get enough of a sampling that you can then decide how much you want to pay a position here in Milford.
Thank you.
Don, I appreciate it. The reason I had you in now is I felt badly that I've been putting you off since July.
Well, no, that was understood. You'd explain that.
And this is a good start to this discussion.
Yeah, sure.
I think that we should have you back in around February timeframe and start developing that criteria, because the town meeting is annual meeting is in May, which is what, we have to put this on.
Yeah,
town meeting
and
floor.
particularly, I would encourage you to think about, when you want this data back, so that you can make a decision in a timely way. Because that'll tell me, obviously, what the overall time frame is, and then we can work back from whatever that target date is, so that you're comfortable, and obviously I know what your expectations are. And yeah, so I would agree, Mr. Chairman, that if we met, let's say sometime in February or whatever, March, and then basically got into establishing what those criteria might be, and talking specifically about the positions we're gonna survey. So the quicker we get the instrument together, which means I draft it, I send it back to you, you review it and approve it, and then at the same time, we understand collectively how we're gonna survey the marketplace, then it's a question of just getting it done. Okay, but
Jerry?
Yeah, Mark, if I can make one point. You talked about the spring town meeting. I presume you're talking about going to that town meeting for appropriation. to see-
Correct.
Yeah, so I mean, you can't really start working, unless Don's gonna work for free. You gotta get that appropriation first.
Correct.
Then you can contract and start working. I mean,
Correct.
again, I'm not saying Don can't come in and work for free, but
I know.
you understand that what you're gonna get in the annual town meeting is the appropriations.
Yeah.
And you're looking at anything that comes out of this, if you're ever gonna utilize it, will be the following.
Following,
annual town meeting.
in October.
Yeah,
Not, well, October, the next annual
Right.
town meeting.
Right.
You can't bring it up in October, it's the annual town meeting.
yeah, and
Selectmen set the Article 3 at annual town meetings,
I understand that.
so, and only the selectmen can set it. and only the
I
selectmen
understand
can
that.
forward. So you could, if you see fit, move to amend what they do, what the selectmen set, but you don't have the ability to bring anything out in the fall, so you get the money at this annual town meeting, looking towards something that you're gonna utilize perhaps at the following town meeting, annual town meeting.
All right, we can discuss. So maybe March or April is better.
that's fine. You know, like I said, I'm more than happy to at
Yeah,
least
what-
begin the
what-
process if the timeframe requires it.
What I'd like to do when we go for an appropriation at the annual town meeting is to have something to present to the town,
Sure.
saying this is what we're gonna do and why we're gonna do it and how we're gonna do it.
Right,
And
yeah,
let them
and
decide
and
if
I would
they-
appreciate that too, because I mean, I need to be a little bit more comfortable relative to knowing exactly what it is you do want to do.
So maybe it's,
so-
April.
Okay, and that's fine. And hopefully, in the meantime, you know, I will have started working with the Personnel Board, depending upon the outcome of your special
We-
town meeting.
We'll recommend you favorable on that, so.
I certainly would appreciate it.
And we'll probably put together a group of a couple, 3 people to sit down and spend time with you and do it that way.
Yeah, if you could, Mr. Chairman, that would be a great idea, and then we could work out a lot of the details and,
You don't want 15 people giving you information. at the same time.
not necessarily, unless absolutely required. But thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank
Nice
you,
to meet
Don. I appreciate you coming in.
My pleasure. Good night.
Right, let's go, Kip.
All right. Top of the agenda,
Move on the
minutes.
minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion? All in favor?
I know.
All right, thank you. All right, the library. Library director went back to the town engineer, and I spoke with the town engineer the other day, and she, and I think you should have this in your packet, came up with a 30-year roof estimate, good faith estimate, and the difference in cost between a 20-year roof and a 30-year roof is about $40K.
There's nothing in the folder for that.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, you should
Oh,
have
there's Power
that.
Associates,
BRA,
okay.
yeah.
You should have that from our
Got it.
RBA.
Yeah.
Right, and so what Bonnie said is that the 345 number is well within doable number. Should cover all the contingencies.
Yeah, well, it says okay, yeah.
And I asked her, going forward, that whenever we have a roof to do, we at least consider a 30-year at a minimum.
Good idea.
Yeah, good
as a
idea, Mr.
standard
Chairman.
practice.
Yep, good.
And she said that'll be fine, because the incremental cost is not even worth discussing for the return on the investment.
Now, Mr. Chairman.
Sir.
If we provide a favorable recommendation on this, do we provide a favorable recommendation for a 30-year roof?
That's what they will quote.
Okay, so our motion of favorable should be for a 30-year roof.
Yeah, it doesn't say in the article whether it's a 20-year roof, 30-year roof.
Yeah.
It talks
I
about a
would
roof.
think that we would want the 40-year roof, which means it'll last at least 30.
Why don't we just go for a solid steel
I would
roof
move
and-
favorable on the article, Mr. Chairman.
Second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Article, Michael. Article 22 is the youth center. We asked Attorney Murray to consider passing over the article in favor of moving that money to the short-term capital account, and I received a letter from Attorney Murray stating that he met with the Armory Renovation Committee, and they accepted the proposal of the FinCom to pass over Article 22, and earmarking, he says, but moving $900,000 to the eventual youth center renovation cost. So they're gonna pass over Article 22.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir.
do you need to have that motion taken off the table?
I don't know that we had, did we have a motion? We tabled it, I thought.
That's what I'm saying, you need to, I don't know, do you have to take that off the table?
I don't
You made a
think,
motion, I think you just tabled the discussion.
And do we now have to vote that we recommend
No,
passing
they're
over?
gonna pass it over.
we're gonna
so-
pass it over,
Okay,
so
fine.
no recommendation from us.
Very good.
All right, I'm gonna hold on Article 25 for a minute, because I spoke with Scotty, and the 75,000, I don't know, that appears to be the correct number, so. To do the consulting services. Come join us. Because that will depend on what Article 25 looks like.
Well, originally, I asked for 300,000 for the planning and the drawings of the Main Street project that we have planned. We went to Mass DOT to rebuild a section of Main Street from Water Street to the Hopedale Town Line. We looked at doing it through our Chapter 90 funding and our town money, but it's well over $1 million project just for us to do the basics. So we went to Mass DOT, and me and Mike Santora. By the time we got done with them, they were looking at the Route 140 intersection. We have a culvert crossing that has to be done, all the sidewalks, make everything handicap accessible, new drainage and road. And that being a $2.5 million project. Mass DOT okayed it, so it goes to the next step, which would be put it on the tip. And to get it on there, we have to have design, at least 25% of design to get it on the tip. So I originally asked for 300,000 for the whole design. It actually will end up being less because we have the culvert crossing going through a FEMA hazard mitigation grant. So that FEMA's probably gonna pay to do that. It's getting okayed now as we talk. So, but the original number was 300,000. Last minute we changed to 25%, which is all we need to get it on the tip. 25% is not 75,000. That was only the labor cost. So when I got the proposal, actually Monday I got it, that's when I called Mark. The actual proposal is 122.5. That's 25% of the
So it's
design.
around $400,000 to $500,000?
No, the whole 25% is 122.5. The whole project is 300,000, which I originally asked for.
So it's just new math.
I was just wondering how we got there. If it's 300,000,
Yeah.
Because it's not 75% of the whole cost, it's 75% of the design is more than 75% of the
25%,
cost.
I thought you said.
25%.
25% of the whole design.
Right,
And what does the whole design cost?
300,000.
So, okay,
So
thank
you
you.
would think that, I would think that would be 75,000, but it isn't, it's
I
more.
was thinking it was gonna be more than that.
Right, when I took it off the original proposal, 75,000 was just for labor costs, not their time and materials and everything they needed to do. So their new proposal for 25% of the whole project is 122.5. Now, they actually gave me a couple options I'll throw out there. We can finance with them 75,000 a year for 4 years. Yeah, and I didn't think that would be the way to go.
We're
Absolutely
not
not.
we're not
No,
gonna
we're not
do
doing
that.
that.
We're not
No,
doing
no, obviously. The other option is Chapter 90 funding, but I'd rather not use that. Yeah, I'd rather not use that.
Another
Scott-
question for that?
Yeah.
No, no,
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Scott, a couple of questions. How much is this proposal, can you just kind of redo it, the broad outline? How much is this proposal, how much is the town expected to pay at some point?
$300,000.
300,
Yep.
and DOT is picking up the rest, or?
Yes. Well, yeah, whatever
it's-
funding they get from the tip. So it's been okayed by Mass DOT. It goes on to the next step. We won't see anything till 2017, but we want to get on that list to get approved for the tip.
I guess my question would be, you don't want to fund a study if they come back and say, you know something, we're not going to give you that, and the town's expected to pay $1 million.
Yeah, no, well,
I just want to know how it works.
I'm not sure when it goes to the tip at that point. It's on a list, and they decide which is more important. And Mass DOT, honestly, we looked at it for a half hour with the engineers from Mass DOT, and they said, we don't need to see the rest. This is definitely a project we want to approve. So Mass DOT did approve it. I have an approval letter from them.
which is why I didn't want to put all 300,000 in the bucket.
Yeah, right. Okay, so you're very confident that, well, it's been approved, so it's really just, time as to when it gets implemented?
Yes, it won't, like I said, they won't even probably look at it till 2017, but if we have it all approved and ready to go at that point,
Okay.
it's a chance it's gonna get done quicker.
And if the dollars are more in 2017 to do this, that's still, they cover that?
As long as we have the design, we're all set. That's all we
right.
need.
I just want to be clear, okay? Now, the other thing, I know, I'm sorry.
Ask 8 questions, because
No, no, just a quick, this is quick. You know, I happen to know the Milford Hospital is planning a huge building expansion on the Route 16 side of Milford. Does this impact, is it timing, is this impacted at all? I guess 2017, you know, the project, as I understand, will be done prior to that, but.
Yeah,
Is there any concerns with that huge project going up in terms of redoing the roads? I don't know.
If anything, it's a benefit to the hospital. I don't see, you know, any concern
From your point of view?
from, yeah, I mean, they're gonna rebuild that intersection 140, which is a huge concern, I think.
Yeah, it
You know, when
is.
Mass
Yeah.
DOT sat there and saw that an ambulance can't get through that intersection.
Yeah.
It's not wide enough. So when there's traffic backed up, it's a huge problem.
Okay, good.
So when that's done, it'll definitely benefit the hospital.
Okay, good, all right. Insider information, Scott.
All set? Any other discussion? All right, so what we need is, we've already approved the 75. What we needed to do is amend the approval on Article
125?
4. No, not 4.
Yes, 4.
Yes.
It's 4, Article 4, to 125 or 122.5? What did you
I
say?
would make it 125.
125.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you, Scotty. So that adds 50K to that article, which means that we have to take 50K off of the Article 25.
And you've already,
Huh?
he's already done that, he's already done that.
Just reading. Thank you, Scotty. Okay, so now we're down to Article 25. Article 25 is to transfer money into the short-term capital stabilization account. And the number is $1,550,000. That'll be transferred into that account.
I move favorable.
Second.
Any discussion?
So I'm just a little confused, Mr. Chairman. Are we putting the $900,000 into that now? Okay,
Yes.
so that new number of 1.5
Includes that.
Includes the
It
900.
was originally 7.
Got it, okay. Yeah.
Yes, sir?
No, we're good.
Yeah.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Any new business?
Old business?
Old business
Sorry.
first? Okay.
No, no,
Old
no,
business.
no, I'm sorry, I jumped the gun. I didn't see any hands go up for new business.
Any new business? Old business?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, the old business I'd like to discuss with the board briefly tonight concerns our unfunded liability issue that comes up every spring.
Does that have right?
For those of you who may not have attended the meeting when we had our I guess our financial institution that handles our financial aspect of that, it's intimated many times that our contribution to this unfunded liability has an impact on our bonding
Which one are we
and
talking about?
What unfunded liability?
OPEB.
We budgeted a number for that.
I know. But each time the question comes up, how much should we be putting in there? And we're told that it has an impact on our bonding, it has an impact on other aspects of the town. And we requested at the time for a study. How do we compare to other towns? What's our unfunded liability? What's our stabilization? How much are we putting forward? What are other towns doing? And they committed to do that. It was my suggestion at the time that we have our financial analysts gather that information, but that recommendation did not go favorable with this committee. But nonetheless, they did promise to come back and provide us with some data to answer that question is, we understand this unfunded liability is out there, and we're doing the best we can to fund it, but how do we compare to other communities? And I think, Chris, you had some comments at the time and said, well, if our bond rating goes down by 1 point, what does that mean to us in terms of interest, and which is the better way to go? So, again, it's more or less of a follow-up. I haven't seen the study, it's been promised to us, and each year it comes to us in the spring, and we say, wait a minute, what do we look like compared to other towns? So it's just data that I think this committee needs to make a formal decision.
I'll follow.
And an educated decision based on that.
Okay.
Does anybody have any recollection of that?
Yes,
No,
absolutely.
Good point.
Absolutely.
Bob.
Very, very good, Bob, very
Good
good.
that old people have long memories.
You're on TV.
I know.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'll follow up with the part-time treasurer, or the temporary treasurer, and see if nothing else, we'll write a letter to Bartholomew.
Thank you.
I just had one other thing. And it's a pleasure of the committee. I've been stopped a number of times, and people that have never watched us on TV, and they keep asking, well, who's that guy that was sitting to your left, and who's that guy that was sitting to your right?
Oh, name tags, sure.
I think it's time we have.
Name tags. Yeah, we should, absolutely.
Name tags?
Yeah.
Well, name plates.
Yeah, plates.
Brass name.
Does that mean we have to sit in the same seat every week?
Oh, yes, that's great.
You're not gonna screw them to the table. What do you think?
That's a good idea.
I think it is,
That
yeah.
reserved seating, very good ideas, yes.
Have a reserved parking place, you don't need reserved
Get
seating.
chairs out in the hall.
All right.
Bob
I'll,
sat in my seat
Paul and
today.
I will work that issue.
Very upset.
All right?
Very good, good suggestion.
It's fine.
Motion?
Yeah, that's good.
So move, oh.
No.
Now the,
That one, I want
Move
that
on the
one.
nameplates, Mr. Chairman.
No, I don't wanna talk, we don't need to do that. I wanna adjourn.
Oh.
We don't need to move on the nameplates. Paul and I
Okay,
will.
fine.
yeah, you can work that out.
We'll just do it.
But you did.
Sure, I did.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay. Thank you.